Hello and welcome to Dev Talks. Today is a very special episode on the India-Taiwan relations. I know I have done episodes before on the India-China relations, but this is a brand new thing and this is something that we need to acknowledge. I have with me Ms. Namrata Hasija, who's a research fellow with the Center of China Analysis and Strategy, and her primary area of interest is Chinese foreign policy and India-Taiwan relations. She's also the recipient of the Taiwan Fellowship by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in 2019 and 20, and the Huayu Enrichment Scholarship by the Ministry of Education Taiwan in 2014 and 15. Prior to joining the CCAS, she was a research officer at the Institute of Peace and Conflict Studies and has been a visiting researcher at the Institute of International Relations, National Chengxi University, Taipei. Thank you, Namrata, for joining me today and taking us through this very delicate topic, if I may say, of India-Taiwan relations.
Thank you, Adi. Thank you for inviting me. And I think it's very important that we talk more about Taiwan and India. And I think now the trend has started. Because when I started working on India, Taiwan, there were hardly any people. I just remember, I'm not talking about really senior people or diplomats and other people, but yes, from the academic background, my age, and I think only my senior, Dr. Prashant Kumar Singh, was someone who was working full time on India-Taiwan relations, and then Dr. Jabin has also written a few things about Taiwan. So I think they were the only ones that had actually started working on India-Taiwan, and I think after then Dr. Prashant, I met him once with few delegates from the Taiwan embassy, and we got talking to each other, and he was like, Taiwan is a very good place, at least for learning Mandarin. And then, of course, the real push came from my boss, Mr. Ranade. He was like, if you have to study Mandarin, go to Taiwan, learn the traditional characters rather than the simplified, which are actually taught in mainland China. And I think that started my journey with Taiwan, because my first visit to Taiwan was actually in 2012. And then in 2014, when I went there on a scholarship, I stayed there for a year. And that actually really helped me understand Taiwan as a country, the people of Taiwan, and also their culture, the way they look at things. I think that gave me a real perspective into what Taiwan is, because just reading from the books and articles, and we hardly have a lot. We hardly have anything on Taiwan when it comes to India. You always read US scholars or Western scholars who would actually write on Taiwan. So I think that gave me a good perspective, and I think knowing Mandarin was another important thing, because I would just kind of sit at bus stops, talk to the vegetable sellers and people in general I would meet. And Taiwanese are very sweet people. They would always, greet me, and they would just talk to me, and that I could, understand a lot of their history, why they do certain things, what they think about China, and how much do they know about India and stuff like that. So I think that initial 1 year from 2014-15 was very crucial for my understanding of Taiwan.
Interesting. I personally feel that India and Taiwan are natural allies in many respects. Both the countries are, if nothing else, being disturbed, I'm going to use that word a little strongly, by China in a peaceful living environment that I think both the countries would want to do. I don't think Taiwan has any territorial ambitions, and nor do we. We just want to survive in our own sweet way, develop our economies, and take care of our people. So in that aspect, both the countries are free speech democracies, which gives a lot of rights to its own people. It's a rule-based governance, and they follow the international order. Now, before we get into India-Taiwan relations, can you take us back into that time and tell us how the whole story started after the the Communist Party took over and the Taiwan was established, and what was the whole story during that time?
Thank you for that question. I think very important for everyone to understand, because not many people actually realize the relationship between India and Taiwan, what it is now and what it was before. So It was actually the Republic of China, that is the official name of Taiwan. So the Republic of China government was actually formed in mainland China by the Kuomintang party, that is the KMT party. And this was after overthrowing the monarchy in China, the Qing dynasty. Now, when the Republic of China was formulated in China, after, there were many, of course, if you have to read the history of China for that, but to be very brief, what happened between India and the Republic of China government was when Chiang Kai-shek was actually the president of Republic of China. He invited our not at that time, but our first Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru, who was the president of Congress. He invited him to visit mainland China, and this visit was actually cut short because the Second World War had started. So he had gone there for a month, but he came back early. Now this started a very complex relationship, friendly but complex relationship between Jawaharlal Nehru and President Chiang Kai-shek and his wife, Madam Chiang Kai-shek. And so that relationship actually has a lot of things playing on. Now, when they visited, of course, when he visited to China, there are a lot of photographs that you can actually find online of his visit to China. Now, in India, what was happening, we were having our freedom movement that was going on. And Chiang Kai-shek, he was very close to the Americans. And Mahatma Gandhi was planning the Quit India movement. So not a lot of people know, but Chiang Kai-shek actually visited India in 1942 with his wife, Madam Chiang Kai-shek, and both of them tried to convince Mahatma Gandhi to stop the Quit India movement and support the British at that point of time in the Second World War. And he said that I've already spoken to the US authorities, and they are saying that if India joins this, they can, of course, bargain then with the UK to leave India after the Second World War. So it is very complex. In 1940, also, Chiang Kai-shek actually sent a delegation. Thai Chir Thao was the head of that delegation, and he came and he met Rabindranath Tagore, and he also met Gandhi, and he wanted Mahatma Gandhi to actually support the Chinese war against Japan, because this is the time Second World War is going, and the Japanese have actually occupied large bits of Chinese territory, and there's a fight going on between China and Japan. And Mahatma Gandhi, at that point of time, he said, we can support China in a spiritual way, but we definitely cannot support, because he was a firm believer of non-violence. He was like, we cannot do anything more than that. So all these things are happening. And if you look at the letters that have been exchanged between Jawaharlal Nehru and Chiang Kai-shek and his wife, especially his wife, because I think they became very good friends. So there's a letter which tells you that she actually bought a Rolex watch from the US for Jawaharlal Nehru, and she sends it and she's like, this is my gift. Why don't you come again to China? And you can spend a lot of time here. We can talk. And women delegation from China, the plan is going, Indian women delegation to China is planned, and Sarojini Naidu, she comes in contact with Madam Chiang Kai-shek. So a lot of things are happening. And this bond develops between Jawaharlal Nehru and the Chiang couple. Now there's also, you have to understand, the listeners have to understand that a civil war is going on between the KMT and between the Communist Party of China. Because after the World War ends, 1945, that is when the civil war starts between KMT and CCP openly. And Jawaharlal Nehru, in one of his letters, he tells his ambassador that was posted in China, he tells him that I feel that the communist will win. So please go and talk to the communist. Try and, talk to them. And I think, so that shows that he had understood the politics, at least what is happening inside China, and he knew that the communists are going to win. So, all these things are happening. And then, of course, we know that the Communist Party wins the civil war in mainland China, and Chiang Kai-shek, with millions of people, he goes to Taiwan and establishes the Republic of China government there. Now, what happened with us is, of course, here we were, I think, the first non-communist country that recognized the People's Republic of China. That is the Communist Party rule in China that was established in 1949. We were the first non-communist country to recognize that. That automatically, right, that point of time, broke all our ties with Republic of China, the government that was established in Taiwan. So that, and we have documents, and it is documented that India always felt that this Republic of China and PRC, whatever is going on between them, is an extension of the Chinese Civil War, and India will not interfere. So that kind of started a very complex relationship between India and ROC. Now, of course, it is referred to more as Taiwan, and we had no relations with the ROC government for years to come. And I know for a fact that for a brief period, the window was opened after we had the 1962 war with the Chinese. The Republic of China and India had few informal visits, but it did not materialize into anything. And then, of course, again, there was a gap of many years. And after that, the formal relations, of course, informal relations, of course, was established in the 1990s when India started an Look East policy. Now, Look East policy, why that was important for India at that point of time, we all know that India was looking for more trade relationship with the countries, and they wanted to look east. And that is when it was decided between India and Taipei that they are going to open offices that are, of course, not going to be, they're not going to establish any diplomatic relations, but they're going to establish offices in both the countries. And here we call it the Taipei Economic and Cultural Center. And in India, we have an India-Taipei Association. And that is 1995 when we had both these offices opening. So that is a start of a new relationship between India and Taiwan, minus whatever happened before. So these unofficial relations that started in 1995, and we are celebrating actually 25 years of our relationship. So that is a new India and Taiwan relation, I would say, because there were many factors that came into play. Because that point of time, the government, the Indian government, when it opened its office in Taipei, they were very clear that they are not going to let that influence India-China relation. And that is also reflective because now I always call that it's high time that India should stop looking at Taiwan through a Chinese prism. But it all started in 1995 when we decided that this is just an economic relationship. And of course, our relationship with China is more important. And that, I think, started a new relationship also, but also with many drawbacks, because we were not treating Taiwan as a partner the way we should have, because there was always China at the back of our mind. So that is kind of a journey till 1995, at least.
That's a very, I must say, it's a swing on neither side, and that's something which we've seen Indian history being characterized by. We've not taken a stand on many an issue where we try and scapegoat the issue for the politics of the day puts it across. Even between India-China relations, let the future generations decide. So that's something which is it's a sad thing. I'd like to also ask you beyond this, just prior to 1962, you mentioned the small window that had opened. Before we come to the 1962 war and the aftermath of that, what was that window like, and what exactly happened during that time? And did we actually miss an opportunity during that time for us to, gain a better foothold in that area?
See, everyone's knowledge, including mine, is very restricted when it comes to this period of time, because in India, our archives, there is nothing. There are no papers to it. But in Taiwan, there are papers on these 4-5 informal visits that actually happened. And also few maps that we, after the battle was over, the maps that we found, the Chinese maps that we found, they were actually given to the Taiwanese to interpret. And there were 4 5 informal visits, and there was a time when, probably they were thinking if we can establish a relationship. But that, I think, again, I don't know, because we really don't know exactly what went into those meetings. We really have to kind of get the material on that. Only then we can comment fully as to what happened. But there was, of course, a window that was there between India and Taiwan, or the Republic of China, to establish relationship, but that didn't work out. Now, why it didn't work out is, again, I can only speculate whether it was the Indians who didn't show that much interest, or the Republic of China. What happened really is still not known. I know what, I think Professor Muminchan, who's the deputy ambassador in the Taiwan Economic Center here in India, he's the only one that I know has written a paper in Chinese about it. But there are no other records of these meetings. So that really has to be, I think that's one of the topics that needs to be researched on, that what exactly happened and why it didn't materialize.
Don't the Taiwanese have to say anything in this regard?
The Taiwanese have documents, but I don't think they have really made it out in the public because of the sensitivity of the issue. But I know that they are there in one of the research institutes in Taiwan.
Okay, so there is
in Manchu. Yeah, so there are reports there.
Interesting. Coming to the 1962 war, of course, that changed a lot for India. It's probably the only military setback, defeat, debacle. I mean, I know a lot of people like to use different words for it, but I personally have this opinion that that also would have put a further damper on any possible relation that could have come across between India and Taiwan, is because of the factor that the Chinese could overpower us at that time, and that's pretty much this thing. I'd like to ask you, is that what you think as well, and what changed after that? Because there seems to be a bit of a gap with regards any contact on towards that side. Well, did we get so scared? Did we not want to get into an antagonizing position with China, or what was it?
See, if we look at the papers, especially in the archives that are available after 1947, because they were this archives they had opened recently, because initially you had to take permission from the Ministry of Culture and also Mrs. Sonia Gandhi to access the post-independence Nehru files. But now it's much easier because the Ministry of Culture is the only one that needs to be approached, and a lot of people got permission to that. But so when I read those papers, now after 1949, you will see that you can see a change in how the ROC government is mentioned. Of course, it is never mentioned as a government. We always mention Republic of China or Taiwan as Formosa. And through all those letters, be it the diplomats or be it the government officials, or our prime minister or anyone, all of them, like I said, treated that whatever is happening between Republic of China and PRC as an extension of the Chinese Civil War. So that is very important, because we always said at that point of time in the 50s and the 60s that it is an internal matter of China. And there are many letters where you would see that actually it is written that Formosa is part of China and let them deal with it directly. And that is the reason, I think that is what formulated the mindsets also gradually. Because we did not look at ROC or Taiwan as a separate entity. For us, it was always an extension of the Chinese Civil War. I think that shaped the kind of perception that we had, and we never realized that how over the years Taiwan, of course, because I've stayed there, so I know it is an entirely different entity. And there might be one China, but Taiwan definitely is not part of China, because many people also don't understand the history of Taiwan. So Taiwan was actually just a small island, and this name Formosa that I mentioned was actually given to it by the Europeans who were traveling, because they said Formosa means a beautiful island. And then small settlers started coming from mainland China, and most of them were actually from the Fujian district. Now, Fujian is actually this dialect that is spoken in Fujian became the Taiwanese language that we know, Taiyu, which is a Taiwanese language. So that was different. So this island technically was never part of the mainland China. It's only when there was the Ming dynasty was overthrown by the Qing dynasty. Qings were the Manchus, and they overthrew the Ming dynasty. And one of the commanders of the Ming dynasty, Ming loyalist, and especially so many Ming loyalists under him, they came to Taiwan. And his name, of course, there's also a temple in Taiwan that is built on his name, and is very popularly known as Koshinka. And his actual name was Chang Kong. And he came to India, and this I'm talking about 1644, after 1644, when the Ming dynasty was overthrown by the Qing dynasty. And then Qing dynasty, which lasted from 1644 to 1912 in mainland China. Because of this Ming loyalists that had come to Taiwan, they attacked Taiwan at that point of time and made it one of the provinces of the Qing dynasty. And soon after, in 1895, when the Qing dynasty lost to Japan, they gave this island to the Japanese. So actually, from that point of time, 1895 till the Second World War, 1945, Taiwan was actually under the Japanese occupation. They were a colony of the Japanese. So you see a lot of railways, especially in southern Taiwan and all this, are built by the Japanese. So after the Second World War, when there was a brief period when actually mainland Chinese government that was under KMT ruled Taiwan. But even then, there is a very famous episode that is there in the Taiwanese history, is when the KMT tried to control Taiwan. A lot of people in Taiwan actually rose in rebellion. And that is the time when the White Terror, the February 28th event took place, and it is very famously known in Taiwan 228. A lot of Taiwanese protested against this KMT government that was controlling Taiwan. And more than 20,000 elites, including, of course, journalists, academicians from Taiwan, were killed by on Chiang Kai-shek's order. So you have to understand that it's not that Chiang Kai-shek just went there and the Taiwanese people accepted it. In fact, they never spoke Mandarin. It's only after Chiang Kai-shek forced them to speak Mandarin that Mandarin became the official language of Taiwan. It was always Taiwanese. And if you talk to a lot of old people, they actually knew just Taiwanese and Japanese, because Japanese was also forced on them by their colonial masters. So this little bit of history also about Taiwan, a lot of people don't know, and everybody kind of assumes that their history started with Chiang Kai-shek going there. It, of course, complicated their history by his going there, but it never started with Chiang Kai-shek.
I think there's a huge amount of misnomer that Chiang Kai-shek was this great man, this public giver, and this humanist, and this and that. Well, when one actually reads the history, it finds the totally, he's probably a younger brother of our friend in China currently. In terms of his attitude and in terms of his authoritarianism, would you agree to that?
See, when Chiang Kai-shek was in the mainland, when he was ruling China, he was, even when he came to Taiwan, he always wanted to go back to mainland China. He never recognized himself, of course, as Taiwanese, because he was not. He was a Chinese, okay? And he was married to Madam Chiang Kai-shek, and she was one of the 3 Song sisters. Now, Song sisters belonged to a very powerful family in China. And one of the sisters was actually married to Dr. Sun Yat-sen, who was the founder of KMT. Okay? And the other one, the third one, was married to a banker, the most powerful banker in China. So she herself was from a very influential family. Now, of course, Chiang Kai-shek wanted all power in his hand. He was the president of a Republic of China. And even with his dealings with the communists, he kind of never, I would say, never looked forward in the sense of how he's going to manage things in mainland China. He had a lot of help from the Americans, but ultimately, I think he lost when it came to that connection with the people. Because when the Japanese attacked, the communists very cleverly, they kind of that is when they got an upper hand, actually, when the Japanese attacked, because the communists formed a policy against the Japanese, and a lot of local people joined the Red Army, what became PLA later. So that is also very complex. So even his that is why I said, even Jawaharlal Nehru, our first prime minister, he kind of knew that the communists are going to win in China, and that is why he said that go and contact the communists. So there are a lot of complexities there. And of course, when he came to Taiwan, there was martial law in Taiwan, and that remained till the 1990s. So that is another, that's another chapter. He and his son both had, of course, a martial law, and Taiwan was not a democracy that point of time. But Taiwan is the only democracy in Asia, if you see that when the transition took place from martial law to democracy, it's a bloodless revolution that happened. And gradually how things have changed in Taiwan, and how now people kind of identify themselves. It's not a very monolithic society. Of course, the ethnicity, the dominance, of course, is of Han Chinese. They are the ethnic groups, the dominant one. But that's not that does not define that they are Chinese. If you are your ethnicity is Han, doesn't mean that all of them would be Chinese. And now, currently, if you see, there is a change in Taiwan that I have personally seen from 2012 to now. I just came back from Taiwan right before COVID hit. And if you talk to the youngsters, if you talk to them and you ask them, they always say we are Taiwanese, we are not Chinese. And there's a lot of layers in the Taiwanese society, because I talked about people who were already there in Taiwan before Chiang Kai-shek came. So they are there. Then aboriginals who were actually the main occupants of the island before the Han started kind of settling in the 16th century, when they started settling in Taiwan. So there are many layers. And then came the Chinese people who came with Chiang Kai-shek. So they were a large chunk. And now if you look at, there's another, a lot of, Taiwanese are marrying into Southeast Asians. They're also marrying with Japanese. So there are many layers in Taiwanese society. But what I understand, there was a recent survey also done. More than 70% of the people in Taiwan, they identify themselves as Taiwanese and not Chinese. There's a whole wave that has come, especially, I think, what triggered it was always there, but what triggered it was a 2014 movement in Hong Kong that happened. Yeah. And I tend to witness that in my university, because I was studying Mandarin in Taiwan that point of time. So universities across Taiwan, the students would hold banners, they would have, billboards and everything, and they would say that we support Hong Kong. And that is when they realized that this one country, two systems that China has been talking about for a long time, and they have been saying that, see, it worked in Hong Kong, it will work in Taiwan, because they keep talking about a peaceful reunification between the Taiwan Straits. And I think that triggered the Taiwanese, and they realized, because I talked to one of my professors, and she said, we will not let the same thing happen to us, what happened to Hong Kong. And that is when I see a huge wave of people started supporting the DPP. That is the current ruling party in Taiwan. So, because they are the pro-democracy party. And that is the change that you see. And even the second time when the Hong Kong riot started against the National Security Bill, again, have witnessed what happened in Taiwanese universities, the way students were protesting. Many Hong Kongers would join them, and they will actually write on the boards that it's Hong Kong now, it can be Taiwan next. So, just seeing all those things, I've seen the demonstrations, I've spoken to the students. So there's a lot of Taiwanese identity now Of course, it was there, but you can see it more now, and especially in the youngsters.
Mm.
So I think that is one of the changes that has come in the Taiwanese society, at least that they are more vocal about their independence and they are more vocal about their freedom.
Interesting. I mean, for an island which is what 200 kilometers away from their biggest enemy, and I mean they're the size of Beijing plus probably. Um, they still want to stand up to them, and that's something which is very inspiring. I must say, they know they will be defeated. They know they will be probably run over by China pretty easily. But I think what they want to do is give China a cost of doing that action that the Chinese will not be able to bear it. So and this is a small little country with that much grit and determination. It's absolutely encouraging. I'd like to take you to the India-China relations, which Taiwan kind of gets stuck in the middle. And post the war, I think India took a very pacifist look towards China. We were always scared of the fact that the Pakistanis and the Chinese will collaborate and try and attack us, which has actually never happened. Having said that, we actually haven't moved away from our thought process of one China. So we've got, why did I bring this entire history into play is that I think after the 62 war, we've got a particular image of China stuck in our head. This whole one China policy, to my mind, got strengthened after that. We were not able to acknowledge the fact that there is something, even Formosa or Taiwan or whatever you may want to call it, till, as you say, the late 80s, probably?
90s, when our office was opened there.
Yeah. So some sort of negotiations would have started up between late 80s, early 90s and stuff like that. So there's some movement which happened. What happened that we did not want to even visit our policy towards Taiwan? We didn't even want to acknowledge the country itself, and we stuck to this one China policy, which is dragging on till the present day.
I think it's an important question, but also very complicated because there are two things. One is the one China principle, which only China follows, and there's a one China policy that many countries across the world follows. Now, if you look at India, even before the 1962 war, when China peacefully liberated Tibet, that's what they say in the 1950. What did we say? What was our reaction? Okay, we officially recognized Tibet as part of China then.
Yes.
And we said, of course, officially also we said that Tibet is part of China. And that continued and that continues, okay, even now. But from 2008, the Indian government has started using the one China policy and not saying in their meetings and whenever they bring out any circular or anything, they always say one China policy. Now, one China policy even the US follows, but they have a special Taiwan Relation Act, okay, and their relationship with Taiwan is very different. Now, what our problem is that we can openly say, yeah, okay, it's one China policy and there's only one China. Taiwan is not part of China, and definitely it is not. Just staying there for a long period of time and then studying and talking to all those people, and look at the history also, because we've discussed enough of it, that technically Taiwan was never part of China. Now, that is the problem with most of the countries. It's not only India, but you look at other countries also, how they have never spoken about or against China. We are talking now about Xinjiang. So do we think that whatever they are doing to Uyghurs started now? No. It's only that India has not yet started speaking about it. But yes, there are a few countries that have started speaking about Xinjiang. What about Tibet? The Tibet cause is lost. There was a time when in the US, I'm told that there were stickers on cars that would say, "Save Tibet, save Tibet." Do you see that now? So only now, after China has shown a bit of an aggression, and then the Belt and Road Initiative, and in the 19th Party Congress, when Xi Jinping laid down that timetable of Made in China 2035 and by 2049, they'll either be where the US is or surpass the US, that even the US woke up. So this is not just India's policy. I think countries across the world have been kind of, because of its economic power, because of China's economic power, they have kept quiet on a lot of subjects. And I think the time has come when countries should start speaking about these things, and they should support Taiwan. Taiwan is a democracy. If we don't support a democracy now, the same thing, I always, remember the slogan that they were saying, it is us now, it can be you tomorrow. So when China talks about the rejuvenation of the great Chinese nation, which President Xi Jinping is really pushing hard, it means they want to recover all the lost territories due to the unequal treaties. That's what they call. And that is of a direct concern to India, because that includes Arunachal Pradesh, that includes Ladakh, that also includes East China Sea, that includes South China Sea, that includes Taiwan. So if we will not speak now, or we will not support Taiwan now, then when will we? And my point is, of course, we need to maintain good relations with China. We cannot deny the fact, because they are our next door neighbor. But we also have to stop kind of appeasing the Chinese. That's very important. And when it comes to Taiwan, I think it's high time that we have an independent policy when it comes to Taiwan. And China, see, this de-hyphenation is very, difficult. But at some point of time, we need to have independent relations with Taiwan, irrespective of our relations with China. A lot of TV channels now, and I see a lot of people who had never written about Taiwan have suddenly started writing about Taiwan. This is all after the Galwan Valley. And also, I think one of the other reasons is that Taiwan handled COVID very well. I think these two reasons, kind of brought Taiwan back into TV debates, into our articles, and into the general Indian thinking. Even now, it is very less, because a lot of common people in India, don't know about Taiwan. Because when I was going to Taiwan for the first time in 2012, it was very difficult for me to explain to a few people where I'm going. They were like, Taiwan? Where is it? So, that awareness has come in India. But that one of the reasons is also why, because they are having anti-China sentiments are very high at this point of time. And this is what I don't like. Because whenever we talk about Taiwan, we should talk about Taiwan as a country and not from a prism of China. I think it's high time we should stop doing that.
No, I absolutely agree with you, because I think you very clearly brought out and you mentioned this fact about the Chinese never actually occupying Taiwan except for a short period of time somewhere in the last century. But one thing which comes out is Chinese have this great habit of utilizing a treaty or the legal part of it when it suits their narrative, and debunking it when it suits their narrative. So it's probably part of their three warfare strategy, as is spoken about. So the Chinese have this particular habit, but I think I agree with you that India has to have an independent approach towards these things. It's not something which should be going through China or done because of China. Having said that, I'd like to still thank China for putting Taiwan onto the map of discussions in India, because otherwise I don't think it would have happened. There were these institutes and stuff like that, but I think 90% of the country did not know that these even existed. So as you're very, very right. I'd continue with this and actually ask, as I said, 90% of India will not even know that there is any relation between India and China, because India and Taiwan. I'd like to ask you, what is it that has happened in these past some time in terms of building on that base level that we had created? These are consulary offices, the cultural exchange centers. I'm sure a lot of people like you who are going across, they are coming here for studies. It's there, but is there any progress that you see in the past, let's say 10-12 years, or it's just been at a stagnant pace from when it started from 1995?
No, there has been a lot of progress. That's of course there. But there are still, like I would say, a lot of things that can be improved and worked on. But it's not that the relationship has been stagnant. We have done quite a lot of things. Like, just few things I'll mention, that at least over the past decades, what the progress we have made, we now actually have a double taxation avoidance agreement and a customs mutual assistance agreement. And this was signed in July 2011. And then in 2000, December 2012, Taipei Economic and Cultural Center was established in Chennai. So initially we had only one office that was in Delhi, but now we have two, one in Delhi and one in Chennai. So that was done. And then in July 2014, there were members of the parliament from Taiwan that actually visited India. Yeah. Then in 2015, again, there was a delegation that and a minister from Taiwan actually visited India, and they attended the Vibrant Gujarat Summit in 2015. Then from our side, I remember I was in Taiwan when Mr. Kailash Satyarthi, who's a Nobel Prize winner, he went to Taiwan in 2014. And then in December 2015, the then representative here, the Taiwanese representative, I call them ambassadors because that's what I feel they are. And Ambassador Thien was here, and he and the ITA, our office in Taiwan, the ITA Director General, Manish Chauhan, they actually signed a joint memorandum of understanding on small and medium-sized enterprises. Then Taiwan Chamber of Commerce in New Delhi, that signed a memorandum of understanding with India's PhD Chambers of Commerce and Industry in June 2016. And I think then again in September 2016, Ambassador Thien and our ambassador, Indian ambassador in Taiwan, Sridharan sir, they again signed a Taiwan-India agricultural cooperation. And then there were few other memorandum of understanding that was signed, and one of them was the cooperation of railway heritage in Chiai, which is one of the cities in Taiwan, that was signed. And then in 2017, again Taiwan delegation from Taiwan, members of the parliament, they visited India. That is the time when China actually reacted, and it said that India is playing with fire, and how can they invite members of parliament from Taiwan to India? So that happened. Then we have moved ahead when it comes to trade, because economic cooperation in areas of trade, investment, industry between India and Taiwan, that has kind of gained momentum. Now bilateral trade has grown nearly sixfold, I would say. And it started from USD 1 billion in 2001. And now it is 7.05 billion in 2018. Then more than 106 Taiwanese companies are actually in India. So that is there. Then in science and technology, we've had a lot of agreements. And there's also agreements between universities, like IIT Delhi, I know, has an agreement with Chiao Tung University in Hsinchu. So a lot of, 6 months, the IIT students here in Delhi, they actually go to Chiao Tung University and they study in Taiwan there. They do program there. Then there were then there was another agreement that was signed between Academia Sinica, that's in Taipei, and Indian National Science Academy in 2012. Last year, recently, ICSSR of India has actually also signed an MOU with MOST, that's also an organization in Taiwan. So, and education cooperation, I think the kind of scholarships that the Ministry of Education Taiwan is giving to Indian students, I haven't seen those many scholarships being given by any other government. So I think the number of students are increasing with each passing year. At present, there are around 2,400 students from India that are actually in Taiwan. And then we have moved ahead in the sense that a lot of Taiwan education centers that mainly teach Mandarin have also been established in India. We have, I think, the first, we also have in OP Jindal, we have it in Amethi, Noida. And I think there are almost 7 education centers set up in various universities. Taiwanese teachers are teaching here. And a lot of Indian students are actually learning Mandarin here in India. And then we also have cultural exchanges between India and Taiwan. There are a lot of they started this thing when they were a lot of Taiwanese movies were being showcased here in as part of some festivals in India, and we had it in. I think I attended one, especially in the India Habitat Center. So they are being screened here, and then Fujian University, that's there in Taipei, New Taipei City. They come here every year with a small delegation of students, and they visit Calcutta, they visit Delhi. They do a lot of work here, especially when it comes to helping the poor. They teach students. So there's a delegation that comes here every year. I think last 2 years they have not been able to come because of COVID. So that is there. Then Taiwan has also started sending youth ambassadors here. Again, that has not happened for the last 2 years because of COVID, but there was a regular exchange. They used to come here, they used to perform, they used to visit different cities. So I think a lot of things are happening between India and Taiwan, but I feel there's still more that we can do because we have focused mainly on trade, cultural exchange, education. And there also, of course, there's scope of more because I feel there should be more Taiwan education centers in India because they are a complete opposite to the Confucius centers. They have no propaganda, and they are, they teach traditional Chinese characters, which is very important. And I think we should really, the Indian government should take a lead here and invite and help universities open Taiwan education centers because we definitely need more Mandarin speakers in India. Because if we need to understand China, and we really need to understand that, and we've had many examples over our history that tells us that we need to have people who understand China, who can understand Mandarin, and that I think Taiwan is very good at, and we should really take the lead and invite them to have more Taiwan education centers here. So all those things are happening, but right now I think personally I personally feel that we should move beyond it, beyond the cultural, educational, and trade exchanges. We should, of course, build on it because that is still lagging. I feel we have left certain things and we should do more. But we should also try and build a strategic relation with Taiwan, which is very important. We should take their help in artificial intelligence. Though universities have actually signed mutual agreements on artificial intelligence, Taiwanese universities and Indian universities. I think Roper University is also one of the universities that has signed a memorandum of understanding with a Taiwanese university in AI. So these are the fields that I feel India should explore with Taiwan. And we are very good at software. Taiwan is very good at hardware. So one of my friends, Manik, who's there in Taiwan, he's the one who kind of invented this term. I don't know. He always says IT. IT means India and Taiwan because India is good in software, Taiwan is good in hardware, and let's have this cooperation. So there are many things where we can have more cooperation with Taiwan, and I feel that, like I'll again emphasize on it. Let's build an independent relationship with Taiwan, and we should also build a very strategic relation with Taiwan because Taiwan is very important for us, especially when it comes to as a country with whom we can exchange a democracy, a vibrant democracy, but also strategically important partner for us.
Yeah. Strategically, I think it's very important because it will give us there is a lot of scope for intelligence at the end of it because they are very avid China watchers. They know exactly what's happening. I think then they would be able to provide us with a lot of important intelligence about China. That is something that we are looking for because of whatever reasons in the past, I don't think we've been able to develop or whatever we have. It's not at par with what the Chinese have with us in terms of intelligence collection within the mainland of China. So I agree with you, it'll be a very, very important thing. What about, I'd like to ask you just a last question with regards to this whole thing. Where do you see anything going forward? I'm going to break this down a little more. I take life to be in two sets. It was BCAD at one time. Now it's going to be ACPC. The pre-COVID, after COVID sort of a thing. And so, where do you see this entire thing going AC? Because at the end of it, one thing, as you mentioned yourself, that the Taiwanese were able to handle COVID in a very, very nice way. Also, I was reading somewhere actually, it's an opinion piece where he mentions that there has been a lot of sharing of information which has come from Taiwan towards India with regards to handling in the initial days of the pandemic. There was a lot of information sharing that happened toward us, telling us, okay, these are the things that we know about, so you please make sure that you're looking at this, or whatever it was. Where do you think what do you think we need to do in the future, and do you see that in the right track right now?
Many things. I would say when it comes to Taiwan, yes, they were very successful when it comes to handling COVID. They were the first ones who raised the concerns, the first ones to stop flights from Wuhan, and they also informed the WHO. But WHO, as usual, did not pay any heed to Taiwan. And there was, in fact, a meeting where, when Taiwan was brought up, the WHO representative actually moved out of the meeting. So Taiwan were the first one to actually start securing their borders when it came to COVID. And I think that's quite commendable. They had an experience when SARS happened in 2008, and they followed the protocols, the right protocols. I mean, the world didn't listen to them, but they did try to, warn the world about COVID. And they have very successfully handled COVID. It's only now in the second wave that we have seen cases in Taiwan, but they're handling it pretty well. And then Taiwan has also, they've come up with a new herbal medicine to treat COVID, which is called NRIC M101. So that they are trying to popularize in I think, few European and countries, and even in the US, it is being taken as a supplement. And so they're doing a lot. And I think that's one of the positive things that has come out when you talk about the world after COVID, that how successful was Taiwan when it, came to fighting COVID. And that is also one of the reasons why this positive image in India was also, and many TV channels initially started about how well Taiwan has fought COVID. Now, when it comes to India-Taiwan relations, I think we still have a long way to go. Yes, it's been 25 years. We have done many things. The government on both sides have tried, but we can do a lot more. And I think the first thing is we should be very open when it comes to Taiwan. And again, I think I'm repeating myself again and again. Stop looking at Taiwan through a Chinese prism. We should formulate policies that are going to benefit both countries. And we should look at the areas where both countries can cooperate. And there are many areas, just to name a few, like I said, artificial intelligence. Then Taiwan is the biggest manufacturer of the chips, microchips. There we can collaborate with them. We should also there are many things that a lot of businessmen in Taiwan who want to, from Taiwan who want to come to India, they're actually small and medium enterprises. They are not like other countries where you have really big companies, and they find it really difficult because they don't understand certain things. Yes, in fact, I know that National Tsinghua University, we have an Indian Studies Center there. They have been really trying hard to kind of have meetings where they're trying to tell the Taiwanese business, and they arrange different Indian experts, and they talk to the Taiwanese businessmen on how to do business in Taiwan. And so these initiatives are there, but I think we should kind of up our ante when it comes to India. India should be more open when it comes to dealing with Taiwan. And there are ways in which they can look at the way China and Taiwan actually have business ties. They have excellent business ties. A lot of Taiwanese businessmen actually work in China. So what is stopping the Indian government to actually kind of collaborate with Taiwan? So I feel the effort should be on both sides. Yes, on many things, probably there are issues, and the main issue is that Taiwanese, the ambassador here and other officials, they cannot meet anyone above the joint secretary level.
Mm.
That's also one of the things. So sometimes just talking to the right person is also very important. So even in trade, when we talk about trade, Taiwan has a lot to offer. Their exercising equipments, their even the beauty products, they are of very good quality. Then most of the products made in Taiwan, they're phones, because here in India, you see, we have only Xiaomi or we have only Oppo. Now, Asus is a very good brand. I have used Asus phone. It's very good. So, one of the kind of areas which we can explore is, of course, that. Then, like I said, also security. When it comes to the Indo-Pacific strategy, I feel Taiwan is a very important partner, because the largest natural island in the South China Sea, Ituaba, is actually controlled by the Taiwanese. So, Indo-Pacific strategy also, Taiwan can be of great help. So there are so many areas, I've listed very few, where Taiwan can actually be India's natural partner and a reliable partner. So I think both countries can make efforts when it comes to exploring these areas. First, of course, we should strengthen the areas where we are already working together, like trade and education, cultural exchanges. But we should also kind of upgrade our relationship. There are no journalists, Indian journalists, that are posted in Taiwan. We don't send them, and hardly we have the list of two countries have any interaction. Now, media plays a very important role, and I feel very strongly that we should have exchanges when it comes to media houses in both the countries, and tourism should be promoted. Now, a lot of Indians go to Europe, they go to the US, so it's not that we don't have people who can spend a lot on traveling. Taiwan should actually initiate kind of a tourism program where they can showcase Taiwan here in India, because Taiwan is a beautiful country. I've traveled from north to south, east to west. It's a beautiful country, from beaches to mountains to, it has everything. It has a nightlife. So that is another reason, another way in which people to people contacts can enhance when it comes to tourism, because what is lagging in both the countries is also people to people exchange. People in Taiwan, of course, when they used to see me, they would say Indian, yes, yoga, we have seen Three Idiots, but a comprehensive knowledge of India and Taiwan is not there, and same goes for us. A lot of Indians here don't know about Taiwan. So people to people contact is very important, and we need to find ways to enhance that. When people to people contacts, because right now India and Taiwan relation is managed from top, so it's top to bottom approach. But I feel a real change can only come when it comes from bottom. When people in India are actually aware of Taiwan, they're actually aware of this country, and they will start speaking, they will start discussing. I think that is the time when a real change will come. So there are many avenues where the two countries can actually cooperate, and many things that need to be explored. And these are the few that I have listed. They're just few. There are many things, and even this medicine that has come, we can have like a cooperation with the Taiwanese, and we can learn a lot from them when it comes to COVID. Of course, not everything can be implemented, because the size of India and Taiwan are very different. We have different kind of population, the understanding, everything is very different, but we can always use their experience, and try and implement it the Indian way. So there are many ways, like I've just listed a few, in which we can cooperate. I see that at least I think there'll be progress in India-Taiwan relation, and there are few signs also from the government, because for the first time, MEA actually sent wishes to Taiwan on Twitter when there was a train accident in Taiwan. So this is the first time I have seen MEA actually responding to any incident that has happened in Taiwan, and they said we are really saddened by this train accident. So I think positive things are coming. The Taiwanese establishment also wants to have good relations with India. And if both parties actually want to have good relations with India, then I think nothing can stop them. And again, not just these areas, but there are more areas that we can explore. And I think we should explore to have a healthy relationship between two democracies as it should be.
I think so. I mean, you've put it very elegantly. Let me say that, and it is very important for this conversation to actually continue within the country, because at the end of it, it is also. I mean, we shouldn't. I agree with you when you say that don't look at Taiwan through a Chinese perspective, but I would actually add to that, don't look at Taiwan through a Chinese perspective. But since the Chinese are forcing you to look at them, please do that now, because it's high time that we start recognizing the fault lines within China. It's high time we start recognizing East Turkestan, Tibet, Taiwan, uh, Southern Mongolia, and so on and so forth. Because at the end of it, they can keep doing this to us. It's not that we need to keep quiet. And moreover, keeping China aside, I agree with you. Taiwan is very advanced in terms of information technology. They are the chip makers of the world. We are looking for factories and stuff like that coming in to India, moving from uh, China. I think it's a great opportunity for us to incentivize something like that to come into India and kind of start its operation. Namrata, this has been a pleasure. I've probably learnt more than I could have read anywhere else, and I did some reading obviously before I wanted to talk to you, or even before that when I wanted to actually research what this whole uh, gamut is all about between our two countries, and I'm going to say it very clearly. Um, but you've taken us through the journey of prior to World War One, the Generalissimo and his wife, as he was known as, the 1962 war, which changed quite a bit for India, and the gap between that to 1995, where we actually establish some sort of a relation. I think it's a lot to do with the people to people. I agree with you. There should be a lot more people like yourself who are studying Taiwan, who are working on Taiwan, who go to Taiwan for various cultural and educational exchanges, so that we one understand the place and help them understand us. Because I feel one thing very very clearly, and India is a country that anybody will fall in love with. So we just need to open our doors towards them, and it'll happen. Thank you so much. And I think we'll take it forward by doing another discussion on another topic about Taiwan another day. Thank you once again.
Thank you. Thank you.